Subscribe now and hit the like button. If you believe in second chances, comment below. What's the biggest betrayal you've ever witnessed? The fashion fiasco and the mysterious stranger. The muffled laughter and disdainful glances cut through the air like knives in the elegant ballroom. Sarah Miller, in her backless golden gown, felt every whisper as a stab as she stood alone amidst London's high society. "Look at the poor thing. Where did she get that dress? She probably stitched it together from scraps," she overheard from a nearby table. Sarah clutched her handbag tightly, swallowing her tears. Her dress, designed and sewn by herself, now felt like it was burning her skin. She took a deep breath, reminding herself she had every right to be there, though every second felt like torture. Suddenly, a strange silence spread through the room. The gazes that had ridiculed her now turned towards the main entrance, and then she saw him. Daniel Hayes, imposing in his black suit, walked directly towards her, ignoring everyone. His blue eyes, as intense as the Scottish Sea, never left hers. Before Sarah could react, he took her face in his hands and kissed her passionately in front of everyone. Time froze. 3 weeks earlier, Sarah's life was completely different. At 28 years old, she worked tirelessly in her small workshop located in the Hackney neighborhood of London. The place, barely larger than a cupboard, was filled with fabrics, threads, and sketches. "Sarah, I brought you a coffee. You've been sewing since 5 in the morning," Chloe, her friend, said, entering the workshop with 2 cardboard cups. "Thanks, Chloe. I have to finish this order for tomorrow," Sarah replied without looking up from the sewing machine. Chloe looked admiringly at the dress taking shape under her friend's skilled hands. "It's beautiful. You should be dressing celebrities, not mending clothes in this little corner." Sarah smiled tiredly. Her talent was undeniable, but the doors to the fashion world remained closed for a girl from East London with no contacts or important surname. "Someday, perhaps," she murmured. That afternoon, after delivering the order, Sarah took her shift at the Golden Corner Cafe, where she worked part-time to supplement her income. The place was almost empty when a man with dark hair and an impeccable suit entered, seeking refuge from the sudden rain. "A double espresso, please," he asked, lightly shaking his damp jacket. "Coming right up," Sarah replied. But as she turned, she tripped over a chair, spilling water onto the table where he had left some documents. "I am so sorry," she exclaimed, horrified, trying to salvage the papers. To her surprise, instead of getting annoyed, the man let out a laugh. "Don't worry, they were just incredibly boring reports I didn't want to read." He introduced himself as Daniel, and after insisting it was no problem, he invited her to sit down when her boss gave her a break. They talked for hours, as if they had known each other forever. "A designer? Show me something," he asked with genuine interest. Timidly, Sarah showed him photos of her creations on her worn mobile phone. "You have incredible talent," Daniel said sincerely. "These pieces should be on runways." For the first time in a long time, Sarah felt someone truly saw her potential. The afternoon faded into laughter and confessions until Daniel's phone rang insistently. His face completely changed when he saw the screen. "I have to go," he said abruptly, leaving a 50 pounds note on the table. "I'm sorry, it's a family emergency." Before Sarah could reply, Daniel had already walked out the door, taking with him the warmth he had brought. She stood there, staring at the empty space, wondering if she would ever see him again. A week later, as she was tidying her small workshop, someone knocked on the door. It was a messenger with an elegant envelope. "Miss Sarah Miller?" With trembling hands, Sarah opened the envelope. It was an invitation to the annual fashion gala at the Imperial Hotel, the most exclusive event of the year in the British fashion industry. It had no sender, just a handwritten note. "Your talent deserves to be seen. This must be a joke," she exclaimed when she showed Chloe the invitation that night. "It's not. This is your chance, Sarah. You have to go." "Are you mad? I don't know anyone there. Besides, what would I wear?" Chloe looked at her with determination. "That golden design you guard like treasure. It's time the world met Sarah Miller. What would you do if you received a mysterious invitation like this? Would you dare to go? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more dramatic turns. The gala's unveiling. The pounding of her heart was louder than the heels on the polished marble as Sarah walked through the doors of the Imperial Hotel. The golden, backless gown, her greatest creation so far, shimmered timidly under the enormous crystal chandeliers that lit the main ballroom. "Your invitation, miss," a man in uniform with an impassive face requested. With trembling hands, Sarah handed over the envelope she had reread 1,000 times, fearing that at any moment someone would shout she was an imposter. "Go ahead, Miss Miller," the man replied, after checking her name on the list. Upon entering the grand ballroom, Sarah held her breath. Everything seemed straight out of a film. Women in designer dresses, men in elegant suits, champagne flowing like water, and sophisticated laughter floating in the air. For an instant, she felt like Cinderella at the ball, though without any prince in sight. "Lost, darling?" a voice sharp as a razor asked. Sarah turned to find herself face to face with Victoria Stone, the most influential fashion editor in the UK, with her perfectly styled blonde hair and a black dress that seemed painted on her body. Victoria observed her with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I have an invitation," Sarah replied, trying to keep her voice from trembling. "How interesting. I don't recall approving your name on the list. And that dress is—" "My own design," Sarah answered, straightening slightly. Victoria raised an eyebrow, evaluating her from head to toe. "How brave. Enjoy the evening while you can." Before Sarah could reply, Victoria had already walked away, leaving a trail of expensive perfume and condescension. For the next hour, Sarah tried to blend in, but it was as if she wore an invisible sign that read, "Doesn't belong here." No one spoke to her, except to ask her to move for photographs or to make comments about her appearance behind her back, loud enough for her to hear. "Who's that? She must be the daughter of some provincial politician. No, she looks like someone's assistant who snuck in. That dress is so homemade." Every word was a needle piercing her skin. When dinner was announced, the real ordeal began. She was assigned to a nearly empty table in the furthest corner of the ballroom. "What a shame you came alone, dear," an elderly woman sitting next to her commented with false sympathy. "These galas aren't meant to be attended solo." Sarah barely tasted the elaborate salmon starter as she watched the tables filled with groups laughing and toasting. She felt lonelier than ever, surrounded by hundreds of people. It wasn't until she heard a nearby comment that she understood what was happening. "The poor thing came alone. She couldn't even get a date for tonight." Heat rose to her cheeks as she tried to maintain her composure. She picked up her water glass with trembling hands, wishing she could disappear. An amplified voice announced the start of the charity auction. Sarah took advantage of the distraction to discreetly stand up, determined to leave. She had endured enough humiliation for one night. She was about to reach the exit when Victoria Stone reappeared in her path. "Leaving so soon?" Victoria asked with a venomous smile. "The night has just begun, darling, though I understand that without an escort, these evenings can be overwhelming." "I have to go," Sarah murmured, trying to bypass her. "Before you leave, you should know that I was the one who rejected your designs 3 times for the magazine. I recognize talent when I see it, and you, my dear, simply don't have it." The words were like a punch to the stomach. Sarah had sent her portfolios to Victoria's magazine for years, always receiving rejections without explanation. "You shouldn't be here among us," Victoria continued, her voice barely a whisper, so only Sarah could hear her. "Go back to your little workshop and accept reality." Sarah felt tears threatening to fall, but she refused to give her that satisfaction. Suddenly, a murmur ran through the ballroom, and all eyes turned towards the main entrance. There he was, Daniel Hayes, in a perfectly tailored black suit that highlighted his athletic figure, entered the ballroom with the confidence of someone accustomed to being the center of attention. His blue eyes scanned the room until they met Sarah's. For an instant, the whole world disappeared. He recognized her immediately, and a smile lit up his face as he advanced directly towards her, ignoring greetings and outstretched hands. "It's Daniel Hayes," someone whispered nearby, "the heir to the Hayes textiles empire." Sarah stood paralyzed, unable to move as he approached. Victoria's expression transformed from mockery to astonishment as Daniel walked past her without even glancing, heading directly towards the young woman in the golden dress. "I found you," he said, his deep voice sending shivers down Sarah's spine. And before she could say a word, Daniel gently took her face in his hands and kissed her right there, in front of the entire elite of the British fashion world. What an incredible, unexpected turn. How do you think Daniel knew Sarah was there, and why did he do that? Share your theories in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the thrilling continuation. The kiss that shook London, Daniel's lips on hers, silenced the entire world. For a magical instant, the mockery, the glances, and the laughter disappeared, and only they existed in the midst of an ocean of people frozen by surprise. When they finally separated, Sarah blinked as if waking from a dream. The entire room watched them with open mouths and wide eyes. Victoria Stone looked as if she had seen a ghost, her face paler than the moon. "Sorry I'm late," Daniel said loudly, wrapping a protective arm around Sarah's waist. "Traffic in Knightsbridge was impossible." A murmur spread like wildfire through the room. Daniel Hayes, the coveted bachelor and heir to the largest textile empire in Europe, had just kissed a complete stranger. "Daniel, what does this mean?" Victoria exclaimed, regaining her composure and advancing towards them. Her forced smile didn't hide the fury in her eyes. "I didn't know you'd bring a friend." "She's not a friend," he replied firmly, looking at Sarah with an intensity that made her tremble. "She's the most talented woman I've ever met." Sarah felt like she was floating in an alternate reality. Was this really happening? "Let's get out of here," Daniel whispered in her ear. "Too many vultures." Without waiting for a reply, he guided her towards a side door that led to the hotel gardens. The night breeze hit her hot face as Daniel led her down a path lit by small lights. They stopped by a marble fountain, the sound of the water creating a sonic refuge that isolated them from the gala's hustle and bustle. "Why did you do that?" Sarah finally asked, touching her still burning lips. "Everyone saw us." "Precisely," Daniel replied, his eyes shining under the moonlight. "They were hurting you. I saw it in your eyes the moment I walked in." "But you barely know me. We only spoke once at the cafe." Daniel took her hands. "I've been looking for you ever since that day. I went back to the cafe 5 times, but they told me you no longer worked there." "I resigned," Sarah explained. "I needed more time for my workshop." "I know. I hired a private investigator." Sarah looked at him in astonishment. "What? You were investigating me?" Daniel had the decency to blush. "It sounds worse than it is. I just wanted to find you. When I saw your designs that afternoon, Sarah, you have extraordinary talent. I've never seen anything like it." "You sent the invitation?" He nodded. "I wanted to see you shine in the place you deserve, though I didn't plan the grand entrance kiss," he added with a mischievous smile. "That was pure impulse after seeing you cornered by that viper Victoria." Sarah couldn't help but laugh, the tension slowly leaving her body. "Thank you for rescuing me." "I didn't rescue you," he corrected. "I just accelerated the inevitable. You were about to face her yourself. I saw it in your eyes." They fell silent for a few moments, the air between them charged with electricity. "And now what?" Sarah asked. "Now," Daniel replied, leaning towards her again, "I'd like to kiss you again. But this time, just for us." His lips met hers again, this time without an audience, without pretenses. Only the moon as a witness to a perfect moment. The spell was broken by the sound of heels on the garden pavement. They separated to see an elegant woman, in her 60s, approaching with firm steps. "Daniel Alexander Hayes," the woman said with a severe voice. "What kind of spectacle is this?" "Mother," Daniel replied without letting go of Sarah's hand. "May I introduce Sarah Miller?" Lady Elizabeth Hayes scrutinized Sarah with critical eyes. Her gaze stopped at the golden dress. "Miller?" she asked with a strange tone. "Are you the daughter of Eleanor Miller?" Sarah felt her blood run cold. "Do you know my mother?" Lady Elizabeth's expression hardened. "More than I'd like. Daniel, this young woman cannot be here. She's the daughter of the woman who tried to destroy our company 15 years ago." Daniel looked at his mother, confused. "What are you talking about? Your father never wanted you to know the sordid details," Elizabeth replied, not taking her eyes off Sarah. "But Eleanor Miller tried to steal our designs. She almost bankrupted us with her trickery." "That's a lie," Sarah exclaimed, letting go of Daniel's hand. "My mother is the most honest person alive. She told me it was you who stole her designs when she worked for your firm." Daniel looked from his mother to Sarah, clearly confused. "My mother spent years designing a revolutionary collection," Sarah continued, trembling with indignation. "And when she presented it to her boss, she was suddenly fired. 3 months later, Hayes Textiles launched an identical collection." "Nonsense," Elizabeth spat. "Your mother was fired for stealing sketches from the main studio. My mom slept 3 hours a night creating those designs." Daniel tried to intervene, but another figure emerged from the shadows. Victoria Stone, with a triumphant smile, approached the group. "What an interesting gathering," she commented with false sweetness. "The Hayes heir, his mother, and the daughter of the cheating designer." "Victoria, this is not the time," Daniel warned. "On the contrary, darling, it's the perfect time," she replied, pulling out her phone. "The magazine photographers will be delighted to capture this family drama. Forbidden love between rival families? Sounds like a perfect headline." Sarah backed away, feeling the weight of the situation. It had all been too beautiful to be real. She looked at Daniel, whose eyes reflected confusion and conflict. "I have to go," Sarah murmured, turning around. "Wait!" Daniel tried to stop her, but his mother held his arm. "Let her go, son. The Millers only bring misfortune to our family." Sarah ran through the garden, tears blurring her vision as her dream crumbled around her. She didn't see the determined expression that formed on Daniel's face, nor did she hear his words. "This story won't end like the last time, Mother. I promise you." What an explosive confrontation. How do you think Sarah will cope with this crushing revelation? Share your raw emotions in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the gripping climax. The scars of the past. The small workshop had never seemed so empty as that night. Sarah sank into the chair in front of her sewing machine, still in her golden dress. The tears had left streaks in her makeup, but she no longer cared. She felt foolish for having believed, even for a few hours, that she could belong in that world. The doorbell rang, startling her. No one visited her so late. Opening the door, she found Chloe with a bag of pastries and 2 cups of hot chocolate. "I figured you'd need it," her friend said, entering without waiting for an invitation. "I saw everything on Instagram. That kiss is everywhere." "What?" Sarah took the phone Chloe offered her. Indeed, there it was. Daniel kissing her in the middle of the ballroom with the headline, "Who is the mysterious woman who conquered London's most eligible bachelor?" "Oh my God," Sarah murmured, slumping back down. Are you going to tell me what happened? How did you meet Daniel Hayes? He's gorgeous. Between sips of chocolate, Sarah told her everything. The encounter at the cafe, the mysterious invitation, the mockery at the gala, the surprising kiss, and finally, the confrontation in the garden. Wait! Chloe interrupted. His mother said your mom tried to steal their designs. The same woman who scolds me if I take an extra napkin in restaurants. Exactly. It's ridiculous. Sarah sighed. But now I understand why Mum never talks about that time in her life. It must have been humiliating to be unjustly accused. Sarah's phone vibrated on the table. Unknown number. Don't answer it, Chloe warned. It could be a journalist. But Sarah felt a strange need to answer. Hello? Sarah, it's Daniel. Her heart skipped a beat. How did you get my number? I had it from when I looked for you. Sorry for calling so late, but we need to talk. There's nothing to talk about. Your family thinks my mother is a thief. I don't care what they think. I believe in you. Chloe gesticulated wildly, wanting to know who was calling. Sarah motioned for her to be quiet. Daniel, I appreciate what you did tonight, but… Sarah took a deep breath. Our worlds are too different. Give me a chance. Let me see you tomorrow. Before she could reply, she heard Lady Elizabeth Hayes's voice in the background. Daniel, who are you talking to at this hour? I'll call you tomorrow, he whispered before hanging up. Chloe looked at her with wide eyes. Was that him? He wants to see you? Well, of course you're going to see him. A man like that doesn't come along every day. Chloe, didn't you hear? His family hates mine. Romeo and Juliet had the same problem, and look what a beautiful story. They ended up dead, Sarah reminded her. Okay, bad example. The next morning, Sarah visited her mother in the small flat where she had lived since the divorce. Eleanor Miller, in her 50s, retained the elegance and dignity that characterized her. I saw you on social media, dear, she said as soon as Sarah walked in. A Hayes? Really? Mom, I need you to tell me the truth about what happened 15 years ago with the Hayeses. Eleanor paled, slowly sitting on the worn sofa. Why are we digging up old things? It's over. It's in the past. It's not over, Mom. Last night, Lady Elizabeth Hayes called you a thief. Eleanor closed her eyes, as if the memory physically pained her. I was the head designer at Hayes Textiles, she finally began. I worked directly with Mr. Robert Hayes, Daniel's father. I created a collection based on traditional British textiles, reinterpreted for haute couture. It was revolutionary. Sarah listened intently. Her mother had never shared these details. Robert was fascinated. He asked me for all the sketches to secure them in the safe. A week later, I was fired, accused of stealing ideas. 3 months later, I saw my collection on the runways, credited to another designer. Did you try to defend yourself? Eleanor smiled bitterly. How? It was my word against one of the most powerful men in the country. I tried to sue them, but their lawyers crushed me. I was blacklisted in the industry. That's why I had to resort to sewing prom dresses and altering trousers. Sarah felt anger rising within her, her mother's whole life ruined by an injustice. Her phone rang again. Daniel, don't answer, Eleanor said, seeing her expression. The Hayeses only bring trouble. But Sarah felt she had to listen. Hello? Sarah, it's Daniel. Her heart skipped a beat. How did you get my number? I had it from when I looked for you. Sorry for calling so late, but we need to talk. She looked at her mother, who was shaking her head. I'm with my mom now. I'll see you in an hour. Hanging up, Eleanor looked at her with concern. Be careful, daughter. Don't make my mistakes. Daniel waited, sitting on the steps of the building where Sarah had her workshop. Seeing her arrive, he immediately stood up. Thanks for coming, he said, his eyes reflecting genuine relief. What did you want to talk about? She asked, keeping a certain distance. I investigated what happened. I spoke with my father this morning. Sarah felt her heart race. And he admitted that he took your mother's designs. The revelation hit her like a wave. After 15 years, the truth was coming to light. Why did he do it? Daniel ran a hand through his hair, visibly uncomfortable. The company was on the verge of bankruptcy. They needed something revolutionary to save themselves. Your mother presented that collection at the perfect time. So they just stole it? Yes, Daniel replied with obvious disgust. My father said it was a business decision. I tried to make him see the harm he caused, but he's blinded by his pride. They sat on the steps, shoulder to shoulder, processing the situation. My mother never recovered from that, Sarah confessed. She had as much talent as you, Daniel added, gently taking her hand. Sarah, I know we barely know each other, but I feel there's something special between us. I don't want the mistakes of the past to separate us. It's not that simple, Daniel. There's too much history, too much pain. Before he could reply, a black car pulled up in front of the building. Victoria Stone stepped out with a determined stride. How touching, she said with sarcasm. The Hayes Prince and Cinderella. What are you doing here, Victoria? Daniel asked coldly. I've come to speak with Miss Miller, alone. Daniel looked at Sarah, who nodded. It's all right. I can handle this. Reluctantly, Daniel moved a few meters away. Keeping them in sight, Victoria smiled smugly. I have a proposal for you, dear. My magazine is launching a competition for new designers. The winner will receive funding for their first collection and an internship in Paris. Sarah looked at her with distrust. And you're telling me this because I can guarantee you first place, Victoria replied, lowering her voice. With one condition, stay away from Daniel Hayes. Why do you care so much? The Hayeses are major partners in the magazine. Elizabeth is furious about last night and wants you to stay away from her son. If you accept, your career will take off as you always dreamed. If not, Victoria shrugged. Well, you saw what happened to your mother. The offer hung between them like sweet poison. Well, what do you choose? Your fairy tale love or the career you've always dreamed of? What an impossible choice. What do you think Sarah will decide? Love or career? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the shocking climax. Stolen Roots and Rising Phoenix. The needle went up and down rhythmically, piercing the fabric with mechanical precision. Sarah had spent the last 2 weeks locked in her workshop, channeling all her confusion and pain into a new collection. She barely ate, barely slept, just sewed. This isn't healthy, Chloe commented, placing a bag of food on the workbench. You haven't even gone out to see the sun. Sarah barely looked up from the intricate embroidery she was doing on a waistcoat. I have to finish this collection for the competition. The witch's competition? I can't believe you accepted her deal. I didn't exactly accept, Sarah replied, rubbing her tired eyes. I just told her I needed time to think. She paused. But you're right. I'm playing her game. The decision to temporarily distance herself from Daniel had been heartbreaking, but necessary. She needed to think clearly, without the intoxicating presence of his blue eyes clouding her judgment. Have you talked to him? Chloe asked, already knowing the answer. He's called every day. Sarah gestured towards her phone, where the screen showed 17 missed calls. He's also come to the workshop 3 times, and you've avoided him like a coward. I'm not a coward, Sarah protested. I'm protecting everyone. If Victoria makes good on her threat, no magazine will ever dare. My designs again! Chloe sat across from her. And is it worth it? Do you really think that woman will play fair? Sarah put down the needle for the first time in hours. I don't know, Chloe, but this collection is the best I've ever created. Each piece tells a story of pain, identity, and redemption. I'm calling it Stolen Roots. Chloe examined the garments spread around the workshop. Indeed, each one was stunning. Dresses that combined ancestral techniques with modern lines. Jackets with embroideries that told reinterpreted indigenous stories. Skirts with patterns that seemed to speak of generations of silenced women. "It's beautiful, Sarah," Chloe admitted, "but I'm worried about the price you're paying." Meanwhile, at Hayes Textiles headquarters, Daniel was facing his own battle. Sitting in front of his father's imposing mahogany desk, he tried to maintain his composure. "Are you telling me you destroyed a promising career for some designs?" he asked, his voice tight with contained indignation. Robert Hayes, a 60-year-old man with silver hair and the hard gaze of someone who has made tough decisions all his life, observed his son with an impassive expression. "Was it the family business or some random designer?" he replied dryly. "I did what I had to do, and you never thought of acknowledging her work? Of compensating her? Business is business, son. It's not always clean." Daniel slammed his fist on the desk. "You ruined a woman's life, and now her daughter is suffering the consequences." Robert narrowed his eyes. "Ah, so that's it. The girl in the golden dress. Your mother told me about your little stunt at the gala. Her name is Sarah Miller, and she has more talent in one finger than many of the designers we hire." "Daniel," Robert sighed, "I understand you're attracted to her, but mixing business and pleasure never ends well. Besides, your mother already spoke with Victoria Stone to make sure that girl stays away from you." Daniel paled. "They did what?" "It's for your own good. You need to focus on the company, not on romantic adventures with the daughter of a resentful woman." Without a word, Daniel walked out of the office, frantically dialing Sarah's number as he headed to the lift. Once again, the call went straight to voicemail. Chloe had spent hours in the municipal library, reviewing old newspapers and digitized archives. Something in the story of the Hayeses and Eleanor Miller didn't add up. As a budding journalist, her instinct told her there was more to the story. "Excuse me," she asked the librarian. "Do you have corporate archives from 15 years ago?" The woman led her to a section of microfilmed newspapers. "Here we have The Economist and the Financial Times from that period. Are you looking for anything specific?" "Information about Hayes Textiles, around 2010. After hours of tedious searching, something caught her attention. A small note about an employment lawsuit against Hayes Textiles, filed by Eleanor Miller. The note mentioned that Eleanor had presented as evidence a notebook with dated and signed sketches, but it mysteriously disappeared from the courthouse before the main hearing. "So there was evidence," Chloe murmured, photographing the article with her phone. Her next stop was the Judicial Archive, where, with some flirting and an invented story about a university investigation, she managed to access the case records. The lawsuit had been dismissed for lack of evidence, but in the transcripts, she found something intriguing. The name of a witness who never testified. George Harrison, former head of the legal department at Hayes Textiles. That same afternoon, Chloe knocked on the door of a modest house on the outskirts of the city. An elderly man, tired but dignified, greeted her cautiously. "Mr. Harrison, my name is Chloe Black. I'm investigating the case of Eleanor Miller against Hayes Textiles." The man paled. "That was many years ago." "I know, but the truth has no expiry date." After some resistance, Harrison invited her in. "I knew someday someone would come asking," he commented, as he served coffee in chipped cups. "You were going to testify in favor of Eleanor Miller," Chloe affirmed. "I saw the original sketches," the man confirmed. "They were in Robert Hayes's office weeks before they accused Eleanor of theft. I tried to speak up, but—" he ran a trembling hand over his face. "They threatened me, not just with firing me, but with destroying my career. I had 3 children to feed." "Do you have any proof now?" Harrison slowly stood up and went to an old desk. From a secret compartment, he extracted a yellowed folder. "I made copies of some internal documents, memos where Robert Hayes explicitly ordered adapting Eleanor's designs for the new collection. I never dared to use them." Chloe took the folder with trembling hands. This could change everything. At the Hayes mansion, Lady Elizabeth was having tea on the terrace when her assistant announced a visitor. "Lady Hayes, Victoria Stone is here." Elizabeth nodded, indicating for her to come in. Victoria appeared with her characteristic air of superiority, air-kissing Elizabeth's cheeks. "Any news on Daniel's situation?" Elizabeth asked bluntly. "Everything under control," Victoria replied, accepting the cup of tea she was offered. "Miss Miller is focused on the competition. When it's over, we'll tell her she didn't qualify and send her back to her little workshop." "Excellent. Robert is worried about Daniel's obsession with that girl. By the way," Victoria added with false casualness, "I plan to sabotage her collection a bit, just to make sure it doesn't stand out too much." Elizabeth frowned. "Is that necessary?" "It's a precaution. The girl has talent, I hate to admit it. If her collection turns out too impressive, it will be difficult to justify her elimination." "Do what you must," Elizabeth conceded, "but discreetly." What neither woman knew was that Maria, the housekeeper serving tea, had overheard the entire conversation. And Maria was Chloe's cousin. What an incredible twist. How will these hidden truths impact the competition and Daniel and Sarah's future? Share your theories in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the breathtaking climax. The runway of truth. Sarah was putting the finishing touches on her collection when Chloe burst into the workshop like a whirlwind. "We've got it! We have proof!" "What are you talking about?" Sarah asked, disoriented by her friend's sudden entrance. "Proof that the Hayeses stole your mother's designs," Chloe explained, waving the folder like a trophy. "And that's not all. My cousin Maria, who works at the Hayes mansion, overheard Victoria and Lady Elizabeth planning how they're going to sabotage your collection." Sarah slumped into a chair, overwhelmed by the information. "They're going to sabotage me? You never had a chance, Sarah. The competition is a sham to keep you away from Daniel." "I can't believe it," Sarah murmured, the pieces painfully clicking into place in her mind. Just then, the doorbell rang, interrupting her thoughts. Chloe peeked out the window. "Speaking of the devil, it's Daniel." "I can't talk to him now," Sarah said, looking at her workshop full of designs. "The delivery is tomorrow. I think you'll want to hear what he has to say," Chloe insisted, opening the door. Daniel entered like a storm, his face reflecting equal parts worry and determination. Seeing Sarah, he stopped dead. "You look terrible," he said honestly. Sarah let out a tired laugh. "Well, thanks. I haven't slept in days," Daniel confessed, approaching her. "You're not answering my calls. You won't let me see you. I was going crazy." "I've been busy," Sarah replied, gesturing to her collection. Daniel looked at the garments with genuine admiration. "It's impressive. But Sarah, you have to listen to me. Victoria and my mother are colluding to sabotage me," she completed. Daniel blinked. Surprised. "How did you know?" Chloe raised her hand. "I told her. I have my sources." "Then you know you never had a chance in that competition," Daniel said softly. "It was all a plan to separate us." Sarah felt tears threatening to fall. "Not just because of that, Daniel. I couldn't be near you knowing what your family did to mine." "I know," he replied, taking her hands. "And that's why I came. My father refuses to admit his mistake, but I am not my father." Daniel pulled out legal documents from his phone. "I'm preparing a lawsuit on behalf of the company against my own father for misappropriation of intellectual property. I want your mother to receive the recognition and compensation she deserves." Sarah looked at him, stunned. "You're suing your father? For my mother?" "For what's fair," he corrected. "And because I can't be part of a company built on lies." Chloe observed the scene with a smile. "And I thought Prince Charming's only existed in romantic comedies." Sarah's phone rang, interrupting the moment. It was a message from an unknown number with an attached image. Her designs, scattered on the workshop floor, stained with what looked like red ink. "What's this?" she asked, showing them the screen. Daniel and Chloe looked at the image horrified. "Someone's in your other workshop," Chloe said, "but we're here." Sarah suddenly understood. "My other workshop, the one I rent in Shoreditch for important deliveries." Without losing a second, the three ran out. Time was against them as a desperate plan began to form in Sarah's mind. "I have an idea," she said, as they got into Daniel's car. "But I'll need both your help." The convention center glittered under the city lights. Dozens of reporters and figures from the British fashion world crowded the entrance for the year's most anticipated event, the final of the New Promises of Design competition, organized by Victoria Stone's magazine. Inside, final preparations were underway. Models ran back and forth, makeup artists put on finishing touches, and nervous designers checked every detail of their collections. All except Sarah Miller, whose space remained eerily empty. "Where is Miss Miller?" one of the organizers asked, impatiently checking his watch. Victoria Stone, impeccable in a blood-red suit, smiled discreetly. "Perhaps she chickened out," she commented with false regret. "A shame. I was really hoping to see her collection." In the front row, Lady Elizabeth Hayes watched with a satisfied expression. According to the plan, Sarah would have found her collection destroyed the night before, too late to repair. No participation, no recognition, no Daniel. Problem solved. What neither woman expected to see was Robert Hayes entering the venue, with a somber expression and a manila envelope under his arm. "Robert," Elizabeth greeted with surprise. "You didn't mention you were coming." "We need to talk," he replied dryly, guiding her to a secluded corner. "Daniel filed a lawsuit against me. Against us, technically." "What? What are you talking about?" Robert handed her the envelope. "For misappropriation of intellectual property. The Eleanor Miller case, 2010. Elizabeth paled. "Impossible. That was buried years ago." "Apparently not deep enough," Robert grumbled. "He has documents, Elizabeth. Documents I thought were destroyed. And testimonies." That damn George Harrison finally spoke. "What does this mean for the company?" "It means we're in trouble. Daniel is threatening to make everything public if we don't acknowledge the crime and adequately compensate Eleanor Miller." Elizabeth clutched her chest. "Our own son is blackmailing us." "He calls it justice," Robert replied bitterly, and the worst part is he's right. While this conversation took place, the audience began to take their seats. The show was about to begin, and the master of ceremonies took the stage to welcome them. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the grand final of New Promises of Design. Tonight, 5 talented designers will show us the future of British fashion." Victoria discreetly approached the organizer. "It'll be just 4, she whispered. "Sarah Miller won't be presenting." As if contradicting her words, a commotion at the entrance caught everyone's attention. Chloe ran in, carrying garment bags on hangers. "Wait, don't start yet. Sarah Miller is here." Victoria looked at her in disbelief. "Impossible." "Very possible," Chloe replied with a defiant smile. "And she comes with a surprise." Before Victoria could respond, the lights dimmed and the master of ceremonies announced the start of the show. The first 4 designers presented their collections to polite applause. Finally, it was Sarah's turn. And now, presenting her Intertwined Roots collection, Sarah Miller. The music changed to a blend of traditional Scottish sounds with contemporary rhythms. The first model appeared on the runway in a stunning dress that combined ancestral techniques with modern lines, similar yet distinct from the designs Sarah had been working on for weeks. One by one, the models paraded creations that elicited gasps of admiration from the audience. Each piece told a story of tradition, innovation, and resilience. Victoria stared, open-mouthed. "It's not possible," she murmured. "Her collection was destroyed." "Destroyed?" a voice asked from behind her. Daniel Hayes watched her with accusing eyes. Do you know anything about that, Victoria? Before she could reply, the runway lit up completely for the finale. The models returned in a line, and behind them, to everyone's surprise, appeared Sarah and Eleanor Miller, hand in hand. The audience erupted in applause at the powerful image of mother and daughter wearing complementary designs that clearly represented two generations of talent. When the applause finally died down, Sarah took a microphone. Thank you all for being here tonight. This collection is special because it's not just mine. It's a collaboration with my mother, Eleanor Miller, a brilliant designer whose career was unjustly cut short 15 years ago when her designs were stolen. A murmur went through the audience. Last night, my original collection was vandalized, Sarah continued, her voice firm. Someone broke into my workshop and destroyed weeks of work. Victoria discreetly tried to back towards the exit, but Daniel blocked her path. However, Sarah continued, thanks to my mother, my friends, and a special person who believed in me, we were able to create something new in record time. This collection represents not only our talent, but our resilience against those who tried to silence us. Lady Elizabeth and Robert Hayes watched the scene with tense expressions, aware that many eyes in the room were now turning towards them. Finally, Sarah added, I want to announce that my mother and I are launching our own brand, Phoenix Threads, and our first project will be to dress women from disadvantaged communities for job interviews free of charge, combining their cultural roots with the demands of the professional world. The ovation was instantaneous and deafening. Journalists surged forward, cameras flashed, and the audience rose to its feet. In the midst of the chaos, Robert Hayes approached the stage with a determined stride. The audience fell silent as he climbed the steps to face Eleanor Miller. Eleanor, he said, his voice amplified by the microphone Sarah still held. It's been 15 years, but it's never too late to right a wrong. He turned to the audience. I, Robert Hayes, chairman of Hayes Textiles, publicly acknowledge that the designs for the British Roots collection of 2010 were created by Eleanor Miller. It was an unforgivable mistake that ruined the career of a great artist. Sarah and Eleanor looked at each other, stunned. No one expected this public confession. As compensation, Robert continued, Hayes Textiles will fully finance the new brand, Phoenix Threads, and grant Eleanor Miller the credit and royalties she is due for that collection. The audience erupted in applause again. Lady Elizabeth, from her seat, watched the scene with a mixture of horror and resignation. Victoria tried to sneak away in the commotion, but found herself face to face with Chloe, who held her phone with a triumphant smile. I have a very interesting video of you talking about how you plan to sabotage Sarah's collection, Chloe said. Do you think your readers and advertisers would be interested in seeing it? Victoria's face crumbled. What do you want? A public apology and your resignation as editor-in-chief, or the video goes viral tomorrow. Meanwhile, Daniel went up to the stage and, ignoring the cameras and the audience, took Sarah in his arms. You did it, he whispered in her ear. We did it, she corrected. I couldn't have without you and Chloe. Daniel looked at his father, who nodded slightly. A silent understanding passed between them. Things would change in the family business. There's something I've wanted to do since I saw you tonight, Daniel said. And in front of hundreds of witnesses, he kissed her again, recreating that first kiss at the gala that had started everything. But this time, not as an act of rescue, but as a celebration of shared triumph. The flash of cameras enveloped them like shooting stars, as the audience applauded the perfect conclusion of a story that had begun 15 years ago, when a stolen design sowed the seeds of an encounter destined to heal old wounds and create new beginnings. When they finally separated, Sarah smiled against his lips and whispered, I think this is just the beginning of our story. I'm counting on it, Daniel replied, intertwining his fingers with hers. What an epic night. What was the most satisfying moment for you in this dramatic reveal? Share your excitement in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the beautiful conclusion. Phoenix Threads, a legacy of love. Every stitch, every design, every day. A year had passed since that memorable night at the convention center. The May sun filtered through the wide windows of the new design studio in Islington, illuminating walls covered with sketches, fabric samples, and framed photographs. Sarah adjusted the final details on a mannequin, precisely placing a pin in the delicate fabric. The Phoenix Threads brand had gone from a dream to one of the most talked about sensations in British fashion. Her designs, harmoniously blending ancestral techniques with contemporary silhouettes, now dressed celebrities and regularly appeared in international magazines. "Are you nervous?" Eleanor asked, entering the studio with 2 cups of coffee. "A little," Sarah admitted, accepting the coffee with a smile. "I never thought we'd open our own store, especially not in Chelsea." Eleanor proudly observed the space they shared. After 15 years relegated to the shadows, her creativity had blossomed again, working alongside her daughter on designs that honored their roots. "Your father called," Eleanor mentioned. "He's coming from Glasgow for the opening." "Really?" "He didn't say so in our last calls. He wanted it to be a surprise, but you know I've never been good at keeping secrets." The studio door opened, and Chloe burst in like a whirlwind of energy. Her hair, now dyed a vibrant blue, framed her radiant face. "The interview is confirmed," she announced. "Vogue UK wants to do a full feature on the opening." Since the scandal the previous year, Chloe had gone from aspiring journalist to P-director for Phoenix Threads. Her exposé of Victoria's sabotage had earned her respect in the media world, and now she expertly managed the brand's public image. "Did you mention our initiative with the communities?" Sarah asked. "Of course. In fact, they want to focus especially on the Threads of Identity program." The program, partially funded by Hayes Textiles as part of the agreed compensation, had already trained over 100 women from disadvantaged communities in sewing and design techniques, preserving their traditional methods while opening doors for them in the modern industry. "Speaking of surprises," Chloe continued with a mischievous smile, "I just saw a certain handsome businessman entering the building with a bouquet of flowers he could barely carry." Sarah smiled, a slight blush tinting her cheeks. After a year together, Daniel still gave her butterflies. The door opened again, revealing Daniel with an impressive arrangement of sunflowers and red roses. His navy blue suit, less formal than the ones he used to wear when she met him, reflected the change he had experienced in recent months. "For the most talented designer in the UK," he said, handing her the flowers. "They're beautiful," Sarah replied, breathing in their scent. "But you didn't have to." "Of course I did," he interrupted with a soft kiss. "It's our anniversary, of when I first kissed you, remember?" "How could I forget? Everyone stared at us like we were aliens." Daniel laughed. It was worth every second of discomfort. Chloe and Eleanor exchanged knowing glances before discreetly retreating from the studio, leaving them alone. "How's everything at the firm?" Sarah asked, placing the flowers in a vase. Daniel sighed. "The transition hasn't been easy. Dad still resents some changes, but he's adapting. The new ethical production line is generating a lot of international interest." After the scandal, Daniel had taken a more prominent role at Hayes Textiles, implementing policies of transparency and fair collaboration with independent designers. The company, which for years had operated under questionable principles, was now gradually transforming into a model of responsible business. "And your mother?" "Surprisingly, she's taken it the best," Daniel replied with a smile. "In fact, she asked me to tell you she'll be arriving early for the opening. She wants to help with the final details." The reconciliation between Lady Elizabeth and Eleanor had been slow but steady. United by the undeniable love between their children, the former rivals had found common ground in their passion for fashion and their desire to support the next generation of designers. "I have another surprise," Daniel announced, pulling a small box from his pocket. Sarah's heart leaped. "Daniel, it's not what you think," he quickly clarified, opening the box to reveal a delicate golden brooch shaped like a vintage sewing machine. Or maybe it is, in a way. He took the brooch and carefully pinned it to Sarah's blazer lapel. "This brooch belonged to my grandmother, who was the true founder of Hayes Textiles, though few know it. She started by sewing in a small workshop, not unlike yours." "It's beautiful," Sarah murmured, touching the delicate piece. "There's something else," Daniel continued, taking her hands. "I've been thinking a lot about the future, about us." He guided Sarah to the window, from which they could see the bustling street, and across the way, an elegant Art Deco building. "See that building? The top-floor apartment is for sale. I thought it might be a good place for us, to start our life together." Sarah looked at him in surprise. "You're asking me to live together?" "I'm asking you for much more than that," he replied, now pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "I'm asking you to build a life, a family, a legacy together." Opening the box, he revealed a beautiful ring with a central diamond surrounded by small, colored stones that formed a pattern similar to the traditional embroideries Sarah loved so much. "I designed it thinking of your creations," Daniel explained. "Each stone represents a moment of our story." With tears in her eyes, Sarah extended her trembling hand. "Yes," she whispered. "1,000 times yes." Daniel slid the ring onto her finger and hugged her tightly, as if wanting to melt into her. At that moment, the door burst open, and Chloe poked her head in. "Sorry to interrupt, lovebirds, but there's a small crowd outside. Looks like someone leaked information about the opening, and fans, journalists, and even some international designers have arrived." Sarah and Daniel looked at each other, surprised and excited in equal measure. "Victoria Stone is here too," Chloe added with a touch of malice. "She seems to want to make amends." After the scandal, Victoria had resigned from her magazine position and spent a few months away from the spotlight. She had recently started collaborating with charities in what many considered an attempt to clean up her image. "Let her in," Sarah said calmly. "Today is a day to celebrate, not to hold grudges." Daniel looked at her with admiration. "That generosity is one of the reasons I love you." Together, they stepped out onto the studio terrace, where they could see the growing crowd in front of the building. Among them, they distinguished Eleanor, Lady Elizabeth, and Robert Hayes, Sarah's former colleagues, designers, who now considered her an equal, and several of the women from the Threads of Identity program, proudly wearing creations that combined their ancestral techniques with the Phoenix style. "Who would have thought we'd get here?" Sarah murmured, intertwining her fingers with Daniel's. "From being the ridiculed girl at a gala to this." "I always knew it," he replied, kissing her hand, where the engagement ring now sparkled. "From the moment I first saw you, I knew you were destined to transform not only fashion, but all of us around you." With the sun setting over London, Sarah and Daniel contemplated the future that stretched before them, as bright and full of possibilities as the multicolored threads that adorned the workshop. A future woven with love, perseverance, and the certainty that some stories, especially those written with threads of passion and truth, are destined to become masterpieces. Below, the crowd began to applaud when they saw them on the terrace. Sarah raised her hand, unconsciously showing the ring that caught a glint of the setting sun, a sparkle that promised new beginnings and happy ever-afters, woven thread by thread, day by day, into the tapestry of their intertwined lives. What an incredible, fulfilling journey. What part of Sarah and Daniel's story inspired you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more heartwarming, true-to-life narratives.